The room fell silent. My wife walked in, her hand tightly clasped around another man's, right in the middle of our 10th wedding anniversary party. I stood frozen under the warm, golden lights, the wine glasses in the hands of our guests still shimmering. The soft jazz music I'd picked out just for her still floated through the air. But now, it felt like a blade slicing into my chest. No one spoke. Every pair of eyes turned toward the door, where Claire, the woman I once swore to love until my last breath, stood, fingers intertwined with a younger, well-dressed man. He didn't look nervous. In fact, he smiled. A confident, arrogant smile. Claire smiled too. The same smile I thought was only ever meant for me. Just hours ago, I believed I was the luckiest man alive. I'd prepared everything to make her happy. A rooftop party, bathed in lights, right where she once said she dreamed of watching the city glow at night. A diamond necklace, expensive enough to make any woman cry tears of joy. And a speech I had rehearsed over and over all week. In these 10 years, I've never once regretted loving you, and in the next 10 years, I'll keep that promise. I had pictured her eyes welling with tears, her arms wrapping tight around me, and her whispering, "I'm the luckiest woman in the world." But nothing went the way I imagined. As Claire and that man stepped through the door, I heard a soft laugh from the corner of the room. I couldn't tell if it was mocking or just weary. One guest murmured to another, but their words cut through the air like glass. "He still doesn't know. Everyone at the office knows about Claire and Daniel." Daniel. The name struck me like a hammer to the skull. Daniel was Claire's new coworker. She'd mentioned him a few times, but I'd always assumed it was just about work. I swallowed hard, my throat dry and bitter. 10 years of marriage. I thought I knew Claire better than anyone in the world, but seeing the way she held Daniel's hand, I realized, maybe he's the one who truly understands her heart. And I wondered, was it me who pushed Claire into his arms? Was I so consumed with making money that I forgot how to love her like I used to? Or was it simpler than that? Maybe. Her heart had already left this place. The room grew heavy with whispers. The air felt too thick to breathe. My fingers clenched tightly around the velvet box in my pocket. Inside was the gift I thought would bridge every distance between us. But now, I wasn't sure if I'd ever get the chance to give it to her. 10 years. I did everything to keep my promise, to love you like the very first day. But maybe tonight, it's time I learned to keep a promise to myself. I don't know anymore. Was I preparing an anniversary party or a farewell dinner? I'm Ethan, 40 years old, the owner of a small company with 30 employees, a brand new SUV, and a penthouse overlooking the city's glittering lights. From the outside, people probably think, he must be a happy man. Bah, but they don't know. Behind these glass walls, I'm slowly losing the woman I love more than my own life. Claire and I met back when we had nothing. I was a sales rep, barely scraping by under the weight of student loans. She was a 25-year-old receptionist at a small advertising firm, her radiant smile lighting up every room. We fell in love during the hardest days of our lives. I still remember that cramped apartment with peeling walls and a window that let the winter wind creep in. On those cold nights, we'd sit huddled on the floor, wrapped in a thin blanket, sharing cheap beer and painting pictures of the future. One day, I'll take you to Paris. And I'll cook you the best dinners ever, even if I'm terrible in the kitchen. Claire would laugh. A laugh so pure, it made me believe that as long as I had her, there was nothing in this world to fear. 10 years later, I kept my promise. I worked day and night, built my company from scratch, and gave us the life Claire once dreamed of. A spacious apartment, trips to Bali and the Maldives, expensive gifts hanging in her closet. But strangely, the more I gave her everything, the more distant she seemed. Lately, she's been coming home later than usual. There's a big project at work. You know how it is. Endless meetings, demanding clients. I nodded. Didn't ask more. I've always trusted Claire. Trusted her like I have for the past 10 years. But small things kept catching my attention. She switched to a new perfume. Softer, fresher. She started putting on makeup more carefully before going out, even though she used to be so simple, so unconcerned with appearances. One night, I walked into the living room. Claire was sitting on the sofa, eyes fixed on her phone, a faint smile playing on her lips. "Who are you texting that's making you smile like that?" I teased, stepping closer. She jumped, quickly locked her phone screen, then stood up. "Just some work messages. Have you eaten yet? Let me heat up dinner for you." I didn't say anything else, but in that moment, a strange feeling crept into my chest. The next day, Claire left her phone on the kitchen counter. The screen lit up with a message. "So, how did you talk to him? I don't want to wait any longer." I stood there, hands trembling. Part of me wanted to open that message, but another part was terrified of the truth I might find. I held Claire's phone in my hand. The screen lit up with a message. "So, how did you talk to him? I don't want to wait any longer." My chest tightened. My hands trembled slightly, my thumb hovering over the screen. One simple swipe, and the truth would be right there in front of me. But I didn't do it. I set the phone back down on the counter, taking a deep breath. Part of me was terrified to face the truth. The other part still trusted Claire, just as I had for the past 10 years. That evening, as I stepped into our bedroom to grab my suit jacket, I heard Claire's voice, soft, muffled, from the other side of the door. "Yeah, I'll find a way to tell him." "No, not today." I froze. The door creaked open. Claire jumped, quickly tucking her phone into her coat pocket. "Who was that?" I asked, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Just a client. Work stuff." She smiled faintly, but her eyes avoided mine. I wanted to press her, to ask again, but I didn't. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual, made coffee and breakfast. I wanted everything to be perfect, at least for today, our 10th wedding anniversary. When Claire walked into the kitchen, I smiled at her. "I booked the restaurant. You're going to love it." "I'm looking forward to it," she replied. But her smile faded too quickly. By noon, as I double-checked the guest list and dinner menu, my phone rang. Lucas, my best friend from college. "Hey, Ethan, do you have a minute? I need to tell you something." "What is it?" I asked, my eyes still scanning the list. Lucas hesitated for a long moment, then spoke. "Are you sure Claire's okay? I don't want to meddle, but lately I've seen her with some younger guy after work, and they don't look like just coworkers." My hand clenched around the phone. "What the hell are you saying?" "I'm not certain. Maybe I'm wrong. But Ethan, don't trust someone so blindly that you forget to look out for yourself. Just pay attention." I said nothing. Lucas's voice softened before he hung up. "I don't want to see you in pain, Ethan, but you deserve to know the truth." I set the phone down on the table, sitting still in the quiet kitchen. The late afternoon sunlight streamed through the glass window, glinting off a small black velvet box resting on the table. Inside was the diamond necklace I'd been saving for months. I stared at it. Part of me wanted to believe Lucas had just fallen for idle gossip, but fragments of memory came flooding back. The strange text, the secretive calls, Claire's forced, fleeting smiles. No, I can't doubt this woman. Not after everything we've been through. I stood, picked up the box, and slipped it into my suit jacket pocket. Tonight, I'll remind her why we fell in love, and every bit of distance between us will disappear. I didn't know that tonight would be the night I'd realize I no longer belonged in Claire's world. The cool night breeze drifted through the rooftop, making the candle flames on the tables flicker softly. Golden lights glowed all around, jazz music played low in the background, and the whole scene felt romantic. Exactly the kind of night I thought Claire would love. I stood in the middle of it all, hands clasped tightly together, watching the servers adjust the wine glasses, the flowers, the napkins, making sure every little detail was perfect. In the inside pocket of my suit jacket, a small velvet box rested. Inside was a diamond necklace, delicate, brilliant, crafted with the same care and love I'd poured into our 10 years together. Tonight, I'll remind her why we fell in love. Tonight, all the distance between us will disappear. Guests began arriving one by one, offering warm hugs and kind words. 10 years, Ethan. You're the perfect husband. Claire's so lucky to have a man like you. She's going to be so happy tonight. I smiled back politely, giving the usual small talk. But deep down, a knot of unease was twisting tighter and tighter inside me. I glanced at my watch. Claire was nearly 20 minutes late. Pulling out my phone, I typed a quick message. "Everyone's waiting. Are you almost here?" The screen showed red, but no reply came. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5. I swallowed hard. The wine in my glass suddenly tasted bitter. Maybe. She's picking out the perfect dress to surprise me. I told myself that, forcing down the swell of worry clawing at my chest. Anna, one of Claire's friends, walked over, taking a small sip of wine before whispering, "I saw Claire the other day, with a younger guy at a cafe near her office. Probably just a new coworker, right?" I froze for half a second, then forced a smile. "Yeah, probably. Her company's been busy with big projects lately." Anna tilted her head, her voice trailing off. "Maybe, but they seemed pretty close." I stepped toward the edge of the rooftop, gazing down at the river of headlights below. Cars streamed past like glowing veins of light. But in my head, images collided. Claire, silent at our recent dinners. The strange text, "So, how did you talk to him? I don't want to wait any longer." Her voice behind the bedroom door. "No, not today." My fists clenched. My thumb brushed against the velvet box in my pocket. "No, Claire's not that kind of person. I'm just overthinking." The glass door behind me slid open, pulling me out of the storm in my mind. I turned, and my chest tightened like a vice. Claire stepped in. She wore a red satin dress, her figure graceful, long black hair flowing softly over her shoulders. Each step she took felt slower, as if the air itself had grown thick. But she wasn't alone. Her hand gripped the hand of another man. He was tall, his hair neatly styled, his tailored suit fitting him perfectly. He didn't look nervous, not even a little. He smiled, a confident, almost smug smile. Claire smiled too. The same soft smile I once thought was only ever meant for me. The room went silent. The jazz music kept playing, but each note now felt like a cold blade sinking deeper into my chest. Every pair of eyes turned toward the door. No one spoke. Behind me, a voice whispered, "That's Daniel, Claire's new coworker. But I've heard they've been together a lot lately." The room was so quiet, I could hear my own breathing, shallow, uneven, like a man gasping for air. Claire stood just a few steps away, her delicate hand still clutching his. Daniel. I felt like a stranger in the very party I had poured my soul into. The flickering candlelight, the soft jazz music, the gentle clinking of wine glasses, all the details I imagined would make Claire happy, had now turned into a stage for my heart to break. Part of me wanted to rush forward, pull Claire away from Daniel, and scream out the pain that was clawing at my chest. "What are you doing, Claire? What the hell is this? What did I do wrong to deserve this?" But my feet wouldn't move. It was as if they were nailed to the floor. Claire took a deep breath, her brown eyes glistening like they might spill over. But she held a faint, strained smile. "Ethan, I'm sorry we're late. This is Daniel. He's a coworker of mine." Daniel looked at me, his confident smile landing like an unspoken declaration. He extended a hand. "Pleasure to meet you, Ethan. Claire's told me so much about you." I stared at his hand. Seconds stretched into what felt like centuries. I didn't take it. Coworker. The word echoed in my mind, repeating over and over, a cruel mantra pressing down on my chest. From the tables behind me, whispers floated through the air. "That's Daniel, Claire's new coworker. He really doesn't know." I heard they've been seen together many times already. Each sentence felt like a cold blade slicing deeper into my ears. I looked down. Claire's hand gripped Daniel's tighter. It wasn't polite. It wasn't casual. It was firm, decisive, like a silent, merciless answer. "I've already made my choice." My heart clenched hard. I struggled to breathe. The air in the room felt like it was being sucked away. A voice echoed in my head. "Let go, Ethan. Don't hold on anymore. She's no longer yours." I raised my glass of wine. My hand trembled so slightly, the red liquid shimmered within the crystal. The room waited, every pair of eyes fixed on me, waiting for me to say something. I looked into Claire's eyes, the eyes that had been my safe place for the last 10 years. "Thank you all for coming." I paused, swallowed hard. The silence stretched, tight and sharp, like a wire about to snap. "To our farewell party." My voice carried through the room, echoing softly against the walls, mingling with the sound of the wine sloshing in my glass. Claire's eyes widened. Her lips trembled, but no words came. Daniel stood frozen, the confident smile faltering slightly. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the small velvet box. The diamond necklace inside caught the light, its brilliance now cutting through me like shards of ice. I set it gently on the table, in front of Claire, my voice low and rough. "I thought this gift would make you happy, but the one who makes you happy now, it's no longer me." I turned and walked away. The sound of my leather shoes echoed against the wooden floor, each step heavy, deliberate. No one tried to stop me. No one called my name. Only the night wind slipped through the glass panels, cold enough to pierce bone. I walked away, leaving Claire and Daniel behind. Two people belonging to a world I never truly existed in. Yes. The night wind cut through the empty street, cold and sharp, sweeping dry leaves across the sidewalk. I walked slowly, hands buried deep in my coat pockets, head down, listening to the sound of my leather shoes echoing against the quiet pavement. Golden light spilled from shop windows onto the damp asphalt below, shimmering like fragments of fading memories. I didn't know how long I'd been walking, but the same questions kept hammering into my mind. What did I do wrong? What more could I have given to keep her heart? Or was it already too late? The faint vibration of my phone in my pocket pulled me back to reality. I stopped. Claire's name lit up the screen, along with her message. "Ethan, I'm sorry. Can I see you tonight? I need to talk." I stood still in the cold wind for a moment longer, my fingers trembling as I typed back one word. "Okay." That evening, I chose a small cafe tucked away on a quiet street, the place where we had our first date. The air carried a soft scent of coffee. Warm, amber lights spilled over the worn wooden tables and chairs. I sat at the corner table by the window, Claire's favorite spot, because from there she could watch people pass by. I arrived almost 30 minutes early, yet time slipped by too quickly. Each time the door opened, my heart skipped, then sank again when it was just another couple or a waiter carrying drinks. Claire arrived. She wore a thick coat, her hair down, her eyes tired, as if carrying the weight of 1,000 sleepless nights. Each step she took was slow, heavy, like every movement was burdened with unsaid words. The moment she sat down, I realized this wasn't the same woman who once smiled and held my hand in this very cafe 10 years ago. "Ethan." Her voice wavered. "I'm sorry for what happened last night." I gripped my coffee cup tighter, the heat barely piercing through the ice in my chest. "You love him now, don't you?" Claire lowered her head. A single tear traced down her cheek, slow, merciless. "I never wanted this to happen, but I don't feel the same way about you anymore." I took a deep breath, my fingers trembling under the table. "What did I do wrong? I gave you everything. I spent my whole life trying to make you happy. I worked harder than anyone else could have." Claire shook her head, her voice breaking. "You didn't do anything wrong, Ethan. You're a good man. But I don't see myself in this relationship anymore." Then she looked up. Her tear-streaked eyes were red, but her voice turned steady, clearer, sharper than before. "Ethan, if you hadn't said farewell party last night, maybe I would have hesitated. But in that moment, I realized there's nothing left for us to hold on to." My chest tightened, the room spinning around me. Claire slowly reached into her coat pocket, pulling out a small black velvet box. She placed it on the table between us, leaving it closed. Her eyes drifted away, heavy with guilt. Daniel. He proposed to me. The sound of my spoon clinking against the saucer was painfully loud. I swallowed hard, my throat burning as if scorched. Claire, I'm begging you. Don't leave. I can change. If you want me to quit the company, I'll quit. If you want me to become someone else, I will. Just don't go. Claire reached for my hand, her fingers ice cold and trembling. Ethan, I'm sorry. If you try to hold on to me, we'll only hurt each other more. I've already made my choice, but I hope you'll choose not to hate me. I let go of Claire's hand, but the cold trace of her touch lingered on my fingertips, a cruel reminder that she was no longer mine. The air in the cafe felt heavy, so thick it hurt to breathe. I tried to stay calm, but under the table, my hands trembled violently, fingernails digging so deep into my palm, I felt the skin break. Ethan, I don't want you to hurt. Claire's voice was soft, her eyes red and wet, but her tone was steady, like each word had been rehearsed 100 times before leaving her lips. But I love Daniel now. I can't come back to you and pretend nothing ever happened. I sucked in a sharp breath, but it felt like the air had frozen solid in my lungs. What did I do wrong? Was I not enough for you? To love me one more time? My voice cracked, as though it had been torn apart from the inside. Claire stayed silent. Her eyes drifted to the window, where couples walked by hand in hand, unaware of the quiet storm unfolding inside. You were everything to me once, Ethan. Her voice dropped lower, heavier. But then, you began to disappear, even when you were right next to me. You loved me, yes, but the way you loved me, it suffocated me. You wanted me to be happy in the way you defined happiness, but you never asked what I really needed. I let out a bitter laugh, a sound so hollow, even I barely recognized it as my own. You say I never asked? But you, Claire, did you ever tell me? Or did you just stay silent and leave me to guess? Claire turned back to me, her brown eyes brimming with tears. I thought I saw something flicker there. Not just sadness, but the faintest trace of hesitation. She lowered her head slightly, her hands clenching tight on the table, fingernails pressing deep into her skin. For a moment, I thought she might cry, that she might say she still loved me. But she didn't. Claire drew in a deep breath, then lifted her head. Her gaze had hardened, sharp, almost like a blade. I tried, Ethan. I spoke up, but you didn't listen. You were always too busy chasing things you thought were good for us. The house you built was too big, but it felt empty, without connection. And all those gifts, they couldn't fill the hollow space in my heart. I felt my whole body trembling. My hands turned ice cold. My heart pounded so violently, I thought it might burst. Sweat beaded on my forehead, even though the room felt freezing. Claire, I'll start over. I swear I'll listen this time. I'll let you be yourself. If you want me to leave the company, I'll leave. Whatever it takes, just don't go. Claire closed her eyes, and a single tear slid down her cheek, breaking on the wooden table below. But when she opened her eyes again, I saw only finality there. It's too late, Ethan. I've already stepped into another world. A world where you no longer belong. Daniel knows I still have lingering feelings for you. He told me once, if I still loved you, even a little, he would walk away. But Ethan, I realized I can't ask him to leave anymore. Das. My fists clenched so tight the knuckles turned white. My breathing quickened, my heart hammering like it was about to explode. So, you've really made your choice? Claire nodded, her voice breaking. I'm sorry. I stood slowly, my legs heavy as if weighed down with stone. The room blurred around me. The soft cafe music faded into the distance, leaving only a cold emptiness inside my chest. I walked away, not because I wanted to give up, but because I finally understood. Holding on to a heart that no longer stays is the cruelest way to love. I walked like a man in a dream, The icy night wind cut across my face, but I felt nothing except the emptiness gnawing at my chest. The streets I once knew felt strange now. Streetlights blurred through eyes damp with mist. Each step of my leather shoes on the sidewalk echoed into the quiet night, sounding like a hammer pounding against my ribs. I didn't know where I was going. My heavy feet moved on their own, while my mind spun in circles with the same haunting questions. Why did it have to end like this? Claire once loved me so deeply. How could she walk away so easily? Or was it me who pushed her away? I stopped in front of a small park, a place that once held memories of us. The old stone bench still sat there, lonely beneath the bare trees, their branches rattling in the cold wind. I sat down, my trembling hands clasped tightly together. In the pocket of my coat, I still kept a photo of us from our 5th anniversary. I pulled it out. Claire was smiling in the picture, her hair dancing gently in the breeze, her eyes sparkling like 1,000 stars. That girl, she was my whole world. I gripped the photo so hard the edges crumpled under my fingers. Pain surged through me, violent and relentless, like waves crashing against jagged rocks, crushing my chest until I could barely breathe. You once said, even if the world turns its back, I'll still be here with you. But now, you're no longer here. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I flinched, my cold fingers fumbling for it. The screen lit up with a message from an unknown number. Ethan, can we meet? I owe you the truth. Sender, Anna, Claire's best friend. I froze, staring at the screen. My heart raced, and it felt like my veins had turned to ice. Do I really want to know? What if the truth is even more cruel than I imagined? My fingers trembled as I typed 2 words. Where? Cafe No. 7, Maple Street. In 30 minutes. Rain began to fall as I stepped into the cafe. Warmth and the rich aroma of coffee filled the air, but my heart remained frozen. Anna sat at a corner table, her eyes fixed on her steaming cup of tea. Her hands clenched so tightly, the knuckles had turned white. Sit down, she said softly, her voice low, hoarse, and shaking. Anna, what's going on? Why did you say you owe me the truth? My voice came out rough, on the verge of breaking. Anna took a deep breath, her lips trembling. Ethan, I don't even know where to begin, but you deserve to know. Under the table, my hands curled into fists, fingernails biting into my palms. Tell me. My voice dropped, steady on the outside, but my heart was pounding wildly in my chest. Anna looked up, her tear-filled eyes meeting mine. Her voice cracked as she spoke. Claire. She found out about her illness almost a year ago. Daniel. He wasn't the man who stole her from you. He's the man Claire asked to take care of you, when she's no longer here. I sat there, frozen. My body no longer felt like my own. The world around me blurred. The clink of a spoon against a coffee cup nearby rang sharp in my ears, echoing endlessly like the soundscape of a terrible dream. My throat burned dry. A single word pulsed through my head, over and over. Cancer. Anna's hands trembled, her knuckles white as she gripped them tightly. Her voice shook. Claire found out too late, Ethan. She didn't want you to suffer. She didn't want her final days to become a burden for you. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. It felt like a fist was crushing my heart, every beat fractured, chaotic. Images flooded back. The nights Claire said she had to work late. The times she hid her tear-stained eyes. The bottles of pills she thought she had tucked away out of sight. Why didn't she tell me? Why let me become this pathetic man, clinging desperately, believing I'd been left behind for no reason? I muttered, my voice breaking, barely recognizable. Anna bit her lip, tears dripping onto her trembling hands. Claire knew. If she told you, you would have dropped everything to stay by her side. But she didn't want that, Ethan. She didn't want you to give up your dreams. She didn't want you to see her grow weaker every day, to watch her fade away, bit by bit. She wanted you to remember her, with a smile, not as someone who was slowly wasting away. I buried my head in my hands, breath coming hard and fast, my chest searing in pain. A single, scalding tear fell onto the back of my hand. I hadn't even realized I'd started crying. Anna reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a brown envelope, placing it gently on the table. "Claire asked me to give this to you, on the day she's no longer here." My hands shook as I picked it up, my fingers cold as ice, like I was holding a block of stone. On the envelope, her familiar handwriting stared back at me. "To Ethan, the man I love most." I turned it over and over in my hands. Each time I read those words, my chest tightened, as if an unseen hand was squeezing all the air from my lungs. Part of me wanted to tear it open right then and there, but another part was paralyzed with fear. Fear that the words inside would break me all over again. "Daniel, he knew about all this?" I asked, my voice hoarse, no louder than a fragile whisper. Anna nodded, her voice cracking. "Daniel loved Claire, but he also knew her heart had always belonged to you. He once told her, 'If you still love Ethan, even a little, I'll walk away.' But Claire couldn't ask him to leave. Daniel chose to stay, not to take her from you, but so she wouldn't have to face the end alone." I shut my eyes tight, and the tears came, streaming hot down my face. All the anger, the doubt, the resentment melted away. Only an aching emptiness remained, and a love so deep it hurt to breathe. I lost Claire, but the truth is, she never really left me. She just chose to love me in the cruelest and most selfless way. I stood in front of Claire's apartment door, my hand clutching the envelope with her familiar handwriting. "To Ethan, the man I love most." Those simple words felt like a blade sinking deep into my chest. Part of me wanted to rip it open, to end these torturous days of not knowing. But another part was paralyzed by fear. What if the words inside were the ones to finally break me? I drew in a deep breath, my trembling hands setting the envelope down on the table. The apartment was deathly still, so quiet I could hear the tick-tock of the clock on the wall, each sound pounding straight into my heart. Everything was still as it had been when Claire was here. Her coat hung neatly on the rack, the vase of yellow daisies on the table, now wilted, their petals drooping like tired sighs. And on the sofa, her pillow still held the faint crease where she used to lean back while watching movies. I traced my fingers lightly over her handwriting on the envelope. What if the words inside destroy me? But if I don't read it, I'll stay trapped here forever, haunted by questions with no answers. My fists clenched so tight, my nails dug into my palms, drawing blood. "Claire, I'm sorry I didn't see the pain you were hiding. I'm sorry I let you fight this battle alone." I opened the envelope. Inside was a single folded sheet, her neat, rounded handwriting staring back at me. "Ethan, I'm sorry I chose to leave, but I hope you understand. I wasn't strong enough to watch you suffer as I faded away." I read each word, each line, as if an invisible hand was squeezing my heart, crushing it inch by inch. "I once promised to love you until my very last breath. And I kept that promise, Ethan. You're the only man I ever loved so deeply that I couldn't bear to let you see me weak, fragile, a shadow of who I used to be. I wanted you to remember me smiling, strong, not lying in a hospital bed waiting for my last moments. Love isn't about holding on at all costs. Sometimes it's about letting the one you love be free." I doubled over, my hands clutching my head. A guttural sob tore from my throat, raw, jagged, like a soul being ripped apart. The wind whistled through the window cracks, rustling dry leaves across the floor. In the empty room, the clock kept ticking, its steady rhythm a cruel reminder of my hollow loneliness. A choked scream burst from my chest, echoing through the apartment. For the first time in my life, I cried like a lost child, calling out for a mother who would never return. I shut my eyes tight, but Claire's voice whispered in my mind, "Ethan, don't let this pain consume you. Live and love again." I sat there, alone in the hollow room, facing my grief for the first time. And I asked myself, do I have the strength to move forward? The next morning, I woke up on the couch, Claire's letter still clenched tight in my hand, creased, damp with tears, as if the paper itself had absorbed my grief. Sunlight slipped gently through the thin curtains, spilling across my face. It felt like her touch, soft, warm, a reminder that she lived now only in memory. I walked to the window, staring down at the street below. The world kept moving. People rushed past, cars honked in the distance. But my heart was still hollow. And yet, in that hollow space, a fragile thread of light began to weave through. Claire's words echoed faintly in my mind. Ethan, don't let this pain destroy you. Live and love again. I slipped on an old coat, the one Claire once said made me look handsome, and stepped out of the apartment that had caged me for so many lonely months. At the little flower shop near home, the woman behind the counter asked softly, "Who are the flowers for?" I smiled, a tired smile, but a genuine one. For someone who's no longer here. I chose a bouquet of yellow daisies, her favorite. At the cemetery, I saw Daniel standing there. He had arrived before me, a bouquet of yellow daisies in his hands, just like mine. We looked at each other. No tension, no anger, just two men who had loved the same woman, each in their own way. Daniel's fists clenched slightly, his eyes rimmed red. He turned away, but not before I caught the subtle movement of his hand, brushing a tear from the corner of his eye. Claire was afraid, he said quietly. Afraid of leaving an empty space in your heart. But Ethan, some spaces aren't meant to be filled. They exist, so you can remember her with every beautiful part of you. I nodded, and for the first time, the knot in my chest loosened, just a little. Thank you, for staying by her side when I couldn't. My voice was hoarse, but steady. Daniel placed a firm hand on my shoulder, then turned and walked away. On the way home, I stopped at a small cafe by the street, the one Claire once said she loved. I ordered a latte and sat by the window, watching people pass by. For the first time in months, I felt my heart beat again. Not the heavy, broken thud of grief, but the soft, hesitant rhythm of a man learning to live. I pulled out my phone and opened the Claire album. Her pictures filled the screen. That radiant smile, her hair flowing in the wind, those clear, starry eyes. Claire, I used to think I couldn't live without you, but now I understand. Love isn't about holding someone close at all costs. It's about letting them go in peace and learning to carry on. She's no longer here, but the love she left behind taught me this. A grown man isn't someone who's never lost. He's someone who dares to walk through the loss and keep going. I stood on a small hilltop, the one Claire once said she wanted to visit on a sunny day. The sky was a perfect blue, clouds drifting lazily as if they had never known pain. A soft breeze swept through my hair, carrying the faint scent of wildflowers. In my hand was a small glass jar, filled with delicate yellow daisy petals. Claire's favorite. Claire, today I'm here not to cry, but to smile with you, for the first time after it all. I closed my eyes, taking in a long, steady breath. In my mind, she appeared. Her soft hair, those bright, starry eyes, that radiant smile, every piece of her now woven into my heart. I tilted my head back, letting the wind brush against my face, and then I screamed as loud as I could, "Claire!" The echo rippled across the hill, breaking apart, then dissolving into the vast open sky. I fell to my knees, hands pressed into the earth, tears streaming hot and fast. But this time, there was no bitterness, only a quiet relief, as if a heavy stone had finally been lifted from my chest. I twisted the jar open and released the petals into the wind. They spun and danced, rising higher into the sunlit sky, like free spirits finding their way home. You were my whole world, Claire. When you left, that world crumbled. But I've come to realize the world didn't end. It simply changed shape. Now, you're here, in the sky, in the wind, in my very heartbeat. I sat down on the warm grass, my hand resting on the earth, feeling the steady pulse of life beneath me. People say time heals all wounds, but no, time doesn't erase the pain. It teaches us how to live with it, and how to turn it into strength. Love isn't about holding someone close at all costs. It's about having the courage to let them go in peace, and learning to love yourself all over again. On my way down the hill, I stopped at a small cafe by the road. One Claire had once said she wanted to try, but never got the chance. As I walked in, I saw a woman sketching the sunset, her fingers moving gently over the page. Her eyes met mine, and in that single glance, she smiled. A simple, quiet smile that made my heart flutter. For the first time in a very long while. I smiled back softly, then turned to leave. Claire is no longer here, but she taught me this. Loss isn't the end of love. Sometimes, loving someone means having the strength to let them go, and believing that your heart can learn to love again.